It's like Suikoden meets Legend of the Galactic Heroes with the war. Obviously, it's obviously in a completely different context. Meets Ninja Scroll. It's like all the things that Sam likes.
And you hope that season 5 is going really well for the
I
context
hope season 5 is
of this
going well
episode.
because, oh God, season 2's just killing it for me. So by the end of this, I'm going to be like,
God, I hope it's
so
good.
long to go. Oh my God.
I do have a long way to go, but I am loving it. I'll get there.
And also, this is actually irrelevant to this episode, but I'm here
It is
for
not irrelevant. It's season 5's airing right now. Well, hello, and welcome back to Gateway to Anime. How are you all? What's going on? We are the podcast where we try and throw open the gates to anime, whether you're a new fan, a returning fan, or a veteran. Ever wanted to get into anime but didn't know where to start? We're the podcast for you. But if you're a returning or grizzled fan, as I mentioned, we'll accommodate you as well. We do a lot of different things here. I am one of your hosts, Sam. Been watching anime for about 25 years. I'm not going to ever call myself an expert, just a big, old, passionate fan. Now, just a couple of minutes of housekeeping before we get going. You can, of course, find us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and hopefully you are watching us on YouTube. If you are a podcast listener, please head over to one of Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star review. If you're on Apple, write a little review. Can just be good show. It actually makes a massive difference, surprisingly. So if you want to do that, it really helps us out massively. If you really like what we do, you can find us on Patreon, where we are releasing weekly episodes on Fridays at the moment, where basically it's kind of like a spin-off of the show we've done this week. You'll also get early releases of this podcast. So head on over to Patreon if you really like what we're doing. Now, Charlie, how you going?
Good. Excited to talk about this season, which I know very well.
You do know. Now, Charlotte, before I say, okay, Graham, how are you, mate?
No, continue. It's fine. I don't know.
Okay. Graham's here too, obviously.
Hi.
Charlotte, why don't you explain to people who might not be on the YouTube channel why you're so familiar with this winter 2024 season?
Look, I just decided to do something really unhinged. And I was like, what if I watched every single first episode of, I guess in first new episodes, not returning, just brand new, of the current 2024 winter season. And I made a video, which you can find if you follow the link in the description. You can find it to hear all of my kind of rapid fire reviews. It was interesting. There's a lot of shows, I think it's like 30-something shows of varying degrees of quality, one might say. But what has been interesting, and we'll get into this, is now it means that I actually watch way more. Like I've actually got a list that I would have never have considered before that I am watching ongoing. So in doing that and putting myself through that, wouldn't quite recommend it for everyone. Like you can probably veto some of them. But in taking a chance on some hidden gems, which we'll get into, I've actually got a bigger watching list for winter 2024 than I have in any other season, which is interesting because if you watch our previous episode where we kind of looked at the list and we talked about this, we all were like, there's nothing good here. But actually,
It sounds like Stockholm Syndrome. I'm just going to
It's
throw
true.
that out there.
We dragged this season.
Yeah.
We did.
This season's really good, guys.
God, I ended up actually liking a few and there's some hidden gems. Nice. So I was glad I did the video. It was a bit painful, but we did it. And, here we are now to talk about some of our highlights and what we're all watching. So let's get into it.
Well, now you can disseminate the information which you have now absorbed for our listeners, which
Absolutely.
is very exciting. Now, for those of you who are more old fans, you might notice that we've changed the way we do these episodes. We now do it in 3 parts every single anime season. We do our very early now, which is why we went early
before it airs.
Like before anything airs, we now do our episode of our roundup where we go and go hunting on Mal and through Reddit forums and sort of be like, hey, what's happening this season? Here are the shows you should look for, right? Which is why we are now sometimes going a bit early on things, and maybe the benefit of time doesn't help us when we're like, what a weak season compared to the last season. This is actually a pretty good season. Now, I'm not saying it's like a mind-blowing, top tier winter 2020 season, but surprisingly good. There's a lot of good shows, actually.
Yeah,
so yes,
absolutely.
This is our mid-season check-in. So like I said, we do 3 a season now. Do our early one where we're like, what's the potential
It's more
here?
like a prediction, yeah.
Yeah, it's our prediction episode, our sort of hype up. Then we do our check-in where we're like, okay, there's like a few episodes now. I'm starting to fall into the rhythm. This is what we're watching. And then, of course, we'll round up our seasons at the very end of every season.
It's like analyzing the big game.
That's it.
Do your build up, mid game. You're like, well, that guy fucked up in the end. It was like, why did that guy fuck up so badly?
Exactly. And then analysis at the end in the cold light of day. But who wants to kick off? Charlotte, I think you should kick off because you've watched every single
Queen of
episode.
Anime Winter
The
2020.
Queen of Winter 2024.
That is me. All of you fucking bow
Badass.
down to the
The
queen.
undisputed queen.
Undisputed queen.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. That's fair.
Wow. Wow.
That's really upsetting to me, actually.
Okay, so I'm going to start with what is my favorite show of this season, other than others that we like. There's some good ones. First of all, without kind of going into the new ones, I want to say that we are obviously all still watching Frieren.
Obviously,
of course.
so good.
And it's even better this time round. Like, we've got an exam arc.
It's an exam arc?
Like, we've got...
Dude.
Honestly, we should probably talk about...
Okay, let's get into Frieren.
Honestly, let's start with ones that we're continuing through with. So
After
Apothecary
it
Diaries,
was body bagged by all of our fans in
my
the
God.
Gateway Awards, it was thrown under the bus.
Oh, so interesting. So before we, this is a bit of a timely thing, but Crunchyroll Awards nominations came out, right?
Yes.
And I find it interesting the way that they do their structure is that they kind of don't include the season before. Sorry, autumn. Is it autumn?
Yeah.
That comes
Fall.
before fall comes before winter. In fact, that does how that works. Wait, is it? No.
Yes.
Yeah, spring is when the snow melts and the flowers bloom. Wow.
People come to watch our show to get
Wowee.
informed.
Yeah.
Wowee, that was
About
good.
the seasons.
About the
But
season.
hang on, my whole
Did you know
point.
the sun revolves around the earth? No, that's not true.
Well, here we go. All right. We love science on this show. Basically, Crunchyroll Awards, I remember last year we were like, Chainsaw Man's not included on this list.
Mm-hmm.
And neither is Bocce the Rock. And now, this year, it's like Frieren's not included because it aired at that point. So now for Best Anime of the Year, it's like Bocce the Rock, all this stuff like that. And it's going to be interesting. So I kind of excited to see. But you know what? Sad to not see Frieren. I hope that Frieren can still continue its hype train for this time next year.
It's done dirty, man. Because Bocce the Rock, people love Bocce the Rock. I love Bocce the Rock. But recency bias is a massive thing.
I think it could win.
I mean, I hope it does because it's really good.
Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 was going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, it will.
Yeah, just because it's a popularity contest. And you know
And
what?
it's recent.
There's parts to love about that for sure, not to shit on Jujutsu Kaisen. You know, we love it over here.
We do.
We're kind of normie like that, but we do love it a lot. But Bocce the Rock, lit. I kind of hope it wins.
You can check out our music episode where we all talk about Bocce the Rock effusively. But let's get back to Frieren. It's great. I mean, exam arc, come on, dude. Tick, 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 tick. It's so great.
It's also the best exam arc I've seen in a while.
I mean,
It's
we all
so
know the best
simple.
exam arc.
What, Hunter? Oh, Juden. Jesus, there's so many. Hunter Exam is like the first 2 seasons of
Hunter exam is fantastic in Hunter x Hunter, but if
but
you think
Chunin. No,
that
I
the
know.
Chunin
You
exam-
know that I like the Chunin exam the most. Of course. That is the best. But
yes,
this is, I think,
In
what I
Naruto, for those who
like
don't know.
about this. For those who please watch it, but also it's a mage exam. So what I love is just really cracks me up that Frieren, has an older version of it, and she can't be bothered keeping up because she's so old. She's like, "What does this medallion do?"
That's right.
And she's like, "Does it
Rusted
give me anything?"
medallion.
And she's like, "I can't keep up." It's just because they have to do it because they have to cross somewhere, and you have to have a credential to do it. But it's really interesting how they show the different mages and how Frieren's magic is considered old school, or how mages use. And I find it cool to see all the newer kind of classes of magic in there, new characters. Don't know what Stark's up to. I guess he's just chilling at home for this whole
where's
arc.
Stark?
Well, he's not a mage; he's not there. But I like that Fern is strong.
Fern's great,
Fern's
dude.
fucking awesome, and I like the new characters they're introducing, and I'm just such a sucker for an exam arc. Oh my
Of
god, I
course, of
love it so
course.
much. So anyway, Frieren, which I didn't think I could love more, was like, here's an exam arc, and I went, well, fucking hell.
It's amazing. Look, we've talked about Frieren enough on this show. If you're not watching Frieren, we aren't doing our jobs. So yeah,
Yeah.
watch Frieren. All of us love it. Big ticks from us. Should have done better in the Gateway Awards, but that's life sometimes. You don't
Yeah.
always get what you want.
Well, I'm going to talk about one that we haven't talked about because I didn't actually clock it for when we talked about the hype up.
Yep.
And this is Seventh Timeloop. The villainess enjoys a carefree life married to her worst enemy. Now,
It's a light novel adaptation,
light novel,
obviously.
yeah.
no manga.
What?
Yep.
With that title?
Shocking, I know.
Wow.
So this is interesting. When I was doing this video, I'm going to keep referencing my video it's going to be annoying,
was a
but
good
obviously.
video.
Smash that like
right?
button, hit the bell.
Watch it so you can understand.
You should watch the video. It's great.
But there's just so many reincarnation, I'm a villainess, or like reincarnated as this, like female protagonist led stories this season. And I'm used to that storyline because in Memoir, which we talked about, interesting, we will talk about a couple of adaptations this season have been interesting. But there is a huge, like, usually they're kind of like Otome game, like a villainess in like a rom-com. This one's a little bit different. It's like not an isekai in that way. It's like she's reincarnated in her own life and it's a 7 time loop. So she's stuck in a time loop. Basically, no matter what she does, after the end of 5 years, she will get reincarnated back into the same spot in her life again. So it starts with
ReZero vibe.
Yeah, but it's like she'll live like 5 years and then try and do something different, and then she'll die and end up back at the exact same moment.
So it doesn't progress. It goes all the way back to that moment.
All the way
time.
back. And she's had
okay.
but
Groundhog Day in a long time back.
long time back. And what's amazing about it though is this character Riche, who is like one of my favorite protagonists in a while. Basically, long story short, she is a noble woman who has been poised to marry the crown prince. It's like a fantasy setting, old school kind of, crown prince and duchesses and nobles and, kind of like a medieval-esque setting in that way. She has been her whole life told that she's going to be, she's a noblewoman's daughter and she's just going to marry the crown prince and she lives a sheltered life. And then he decides to dump her in a horrific way in front of everyone and break off their engagement. And that moment where he breaks up with her in front of everyone is the moment she always resets to.
Oh.
And so It's funny though because we reach her in her 7th life. So the episode starts with her getting killed as a knight and you're like, whoa, and this man like stabbing her and her dying. And then the clock kind of ticks back and you realize all of this, that she gets sent back to this exact moment. And it's really fun because in the first episode, really great pilot episode, really good. And it's still, the show is really great. But she talks about every life that she's led, and there's been 7 of them. So the first one, she kind of like leaves the palace, is dismayed, doesn't even have time to go home and get her things, like flees, her family kick her out because she's brought shame to them. She flees and then she runs into a group of merchants who she's like, actually, I've got this expensive jewelry, and they end up taking her on and she becomes like this really successful businesswoman merchant, and then she dies after 7 years in a war that every time she's lived, the war happens and she dies somehow in this war. 2nd time loop, she becomes a maid for a noblewoman. 3rd time loop, she becomes a doctor. So like she actually just realizes what's happening and she goes, well, I guess this life I'm going to dedicate myself to this line of study. But she remembers all of them every time loop.
This sounds cool.
It's so cool. So this one, the time that we get before she goes back, she gets stabbed by, she decides to kind of like be like, I'm dying in every single life due to this war that's been started by this particular person who is my enemy. So in one time loop, she becomes a knight and she gets literally stabbed by him. And then she wakes up, same spot, 5 years earlier. I think it's 5, maybe it's 7 years. I think that would make sense. It's 7 years, 7 time loops, 5 years. But she basically is like, okay. And it's really funny to see her reaction to her fiance breaking up with her because she's like, I accept, thanks, bye, like kind of thing, like walking out. She's like, all right, cool, no worries. And he's like, what? Like, and then she's like walking and she's like, all right, which way am I? She's like, you know what I haven't done? I haven't exited not the front door. She's like, maybe I'll try this time, something new. And she kind of walks up and then she runs directly into the man that killed her in her previous life.
Yeah.
And he's like, and she's kind of like, well, like in her mind, she just got stabbed by him 5 minutes ago, but obviously he has no idea who she is. And they're talking and she's like, this is so interesting. Like, you're going to become this villain who starts a war in every life. They're chatting and then she hears someone calling her name. And she's like, you know what, I've got to go. I'm just going to jump off this balcony because she still retains her skills. So she's a knight. So she jumps off and like leaps off and like does this cool roll. And the guy that killed her is like instantly charmed and is like, I love her. So basically, all this stuff happens and he just proposes to her on the spot. And she goes, you know what? Every time I've come in this life, you're the reason I've died. Maybe I can try and fix this if I'm particularly close to you. So she agrees in this engagement and ends up going to his kingdom. And it's like
a prince or something?
Yeah, he's a crown prince as well of another nation that wages war. So anyway, that was a really long explanation. But the show itself is like, it's actually really interesting. I like the idea of her retaining skills and surprising everyone and being a really cool and worldly character that is just, it's really good. It's beautifully animated. It's actually one of my favorites of this season. And up until now, it's been as good as it keeps going. There's a dance scene in it that rivals the Frieren one.
Really?
I think it's better animated.
What animation studio?
Studio Kai, they also animated Horimiya. That's the only one I kind of know of their back catalogue. It is really good. I think I was just more pleasantly surprised at that genre can be really generic. And I think that this one was just done particularly well. And I like the protagonist and I like where it's going. I like how it's a bit different from the rest of the reincarnated I'm a villainess, what do I do stories, of which there are a bunch this season. But this one stands out to me. So I highly recommend it. Please give it a watch. We'll see where it goes from here. At the moment, I'm just really enjoying a very competent protagonist who makes the most of her, reset ability. I like that she's now a doctor, a maid, a merchant, like all of this stuff, like a knight. Like, so she's got all these abilities because she's like, well, cool.
That's
she's
great.
very level-headed. It's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It is good.
That sounds like a winner. Graham, what about you, mate?
Well, let's talk about Ishura.
Okay.
Ishura, like, I saw this show. It kept popping up on my TikTok of just people like losing their mind at this pilot, and it wasn't on my anime list. It wasn't on live chart, so I didn't know what it was about, and I still don't really know what it's about after watching 4 episodes. It's on Disney Plus.
Okay, yeah. Disney
And
Jail. Love that.
Yeah. So it's taken place much like Frieren after the fall of the Demon Lord.
Mhm.
I hate that term. But no one in the world knows who actually finished the Demon Lord off. And they're all sort of looking for a hero to like take the throne or, the mantle or whatever it is. And you sort of, each episode you're following like a different character who has like some godly power. The first episode is insane. You start off in a small like magic village which has like this maze, and they're all talking about this maze at the center of it, and you go in there and it's like you'll die. It was part of the Demon Lord's like, he keeps all his magical weapons in there, and everyone's like learning magic, and they'll go into the fucking maze. But then suddenly the maze like comes to life, and it turns out it's this giant golem thing that like has all these little robot dudes come out, and they just like massacre this town. Like one scene, you sort of follow this girl who's the shy one, and she sort of befriends the loud, rambunctious one. And then like 20 minutes into the episode, you're just watching this girl get pulled apart from like
Jesus.
from like leg and arm.
What the fuck?
And it's 30 minutes of just chaos. And then this random hero shows up, and he's like a visitor. So it's kind of like there's isekai people in this, but it's not really based around that person. But his ability is he can figure out any weakness to an enemy. That's his special ability. So he takes this whole fucking thing apart. And she sort of realizes like, why did this maze that's been dormant or, didn't know the robot was there. She's like, it's because of him. Because this powerful being shows up, this maze is like activated and all its little robots as a defense thing. So she's like, kind of like, I'm going to fucking kind someone to kill this guy, and I'm going to befriend him.
Interesting.
And that's kind of like the first episode, and I was like, oh, that's a sick sort of premise. Can't wait for the next episode. Yeah. And then the next episode is about a completely different hero. So you're like, he's a wyvern. So he's like a kind of a dragon thing, but he's kind of a freak because he's got like arms as well as wings. So he's like ostracized, and he sort of explores the world looking for like magical weaponry to fight like monsters and demons. And then the next episode is about a different hero again, and then another one. So I feel like it's all
the same world, obviously.
Same world. And there's a bit of like political intrigue because like obviously the Demon King's kingdom has sort of split apart, and there's like parts of it that are trying to get independent. So you follow a large chunk of that. And then there's obviously like a lot of warmongering going on. It's a very strange show. It's based on a light novel, I think.
Okay.
It kind of feels like a video game.
Right.
It feels like I'm watching like character intros for a video game characters, like a fighting game. Like it doesn't feel like a real show.
Right.
I can imagine that at some point, once they've got all their, I think there's supposed to be like 13 heroes.
Wow.
But eventually they're all going to start meeting each other, or there'll be a tournament arc, and it'll all sort of come together. But it's fun. Like the action is really fun. All the individual heroes are, they're godly. Their powers are unbelievable. But it just kind of came out of nowhere. And I thank TikTok for showing me this.
Just not on my radar
It wasn't
at all.
And it just kept seeing it going, oh, this, like the first episode is insane.
Right.
Like beautifully animated, horrific, and really interesting. Same with the next, like the other episodes are good as well, and how they set up each individual hero is like good, but that first episode is ridiculous. So
Okay.
good. I would recommend it. Like, I feel like it's going to come together in like 10, 15 episodes.
Right.
Once every hero, like it
Like
jumps
an Avengers style,
kind of like
MCU,
they're all going to come
but-
together,
Right.
you know? But yeah, for something I didn't really know much about, I've enjoyed it.
Okay.
It's kind of a unique way to set up a world. And the thing about having, because I thought it was just going to be a generic isekai until the next episode, where it's just basically about a hero from that world.
Right.
And then you find there is another isekai. They're called visitors.
Right.
And then the next episode is about, what is it about? It's about a mage who has an apprentice. She's going to a village of like hidden elves to sort of find out, you know, about their magical abilities and like their resources and stuff. And the entire time she's thinking, I'm going to betray these people. The army's going to come through and kill these people. But her apprentice is like, she can change a seed into anything she wants. Like if she needs like fucking to clear a tree or a forest, she just speaks to the seed and the seed does the thing.
Oh, shit.
But she can also like clear a cloudy sky and stuff. Like she's insanely powerful. It's real fun. I don't know if it's going to be good, but it's fun.
But you're enjoying it now.
I'm enjoying it, but I just don't know where it's going. It feels a bit, because of the nature of how it structured, it feels very disjointed. I'm sure it will come together. I don't know. I just don't know if it's good.
It's the only one I didn't watch because I didn't have access to it. And now I'm spewing because I think I'm going to have to watch it.
Please watch it. Everyone
haven't
watch
I
it and just let me
suffered
know if
enough?
it's good.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's one I wasn't expecting. Great.
Yeah, it's like 4 episodes in.
Yeah. Most shows are about 4 episodes in so far. 3 or 4.
Just someone let me know if it's good.
Am I crazy?
Am I crazy?
Crazy.
Is it terrible? I don't know.
Well, Graham's recommending now. We'll see what happens when we get to our
At the
roundup,
end of the season.
winter roundup.
Once
But
I've met 13 heroes.
that's it. But for now, enjoying it very much. Well, if you all cast your minds back, when we were decrying this season in our winter 2024 hype up, and I was like, well, it's going to be a slow season. I guess I should watch Kingdom. Finally, it's time because season 5 of Kingdom is airing this season. Sam's a man of his word. So I finally started Kingdom. Now, am I up to season 5? No, but by the time we get to the winter 2024 roundup,
Yeah?
I will have, because I love this show
I knew you would love
so
this show.
fucking much, dude. Okay, now, as you might have heard us talk about before, famously shocking animation the first season. And when I say shocking, I'm not just like one of those angry people on Twitter or Reddit like attacking mangaka because it was like a slight different from the manga. No. I'm talking some of the worst CGI you've ever seen, and for a whole 38 episode season. It is like the whole season is the bear from Golden Kamuy. It's like
legendary
unbelievable.
bear.
It honestly is like, the animation's so bad, it's almost unbelievable. And I just spent the whole time just being like, just squinting through it. Just been like, all right, Sam, just pretend it looks good. You know? Like, but the story got me so good. And I
Story's
knew
good.
it would. I knew it was
Honestly,
good.
I don't mind some bad animation if the story's there.
It's bad.
I can do
but because I've tried this in the past. In 2021 during COVID, I was like, well, now's the time. I've just finished Legends of the Galactic Heroes. It's time to do another really like revered, like story-driven historical fiction. It would have gotten the historical fiction episode had I watched it at this point. But it was like, this will be fine. I can just pretend and I'll enjoy the story so much it'll get me through. I watched the first episode and I was like, what the fuck is this? And turned it off. Anyway, I've pushed through, I've grown as a person, and I'm watching Kingdom, and I'm nearly at the end of season 2. Both season 1 and season 2, for context, are 38 episodes long. Don't worry, it has taken up so much of my time.
Has the animation improved? Have you seen
Season 2, it looks great. In season 1, it's like 80% horrifying CGI,
Yep.
20% beautiful looking animation, and then it flips in season 2. I don't know, I'm hoping it gets even better as it goes along. I hear it does. But season 2 is like beautiful drawings with the odd action sequence being CGI, which I'm totally fine with, because it's like clearly they need the time to, whatever. I'm not, go for it. If it's gonna, it means that if you're hitting your deadline and not, CGI it, whatever. But don't, my God, PlayStation 2 level graphics. So What is Kingdom? It is a seinen manga written by Yasuhisa Hara. Hara originally wanted to be a film director and began studying to be one until he came to the realization that, quote, movies can't be made alone, but with manga, I can do it myself. So he worked as a software systems engineer for 3 years. He was also studying that as well as university.
What did you do? Sorry, say that again?
Software engineer.
Oh, okay.
And then when he graduated, worked as a software and systems engineer for 3 years before quitting to finally follow his passion as a mangaka. So he spent 4 months as an assistant to Takehiko Inoue, who obviously is, of course, Vagabond, Slam Dunk, one of the greats. And he referred to Inoue as someone who serves as a guiding figure in the world of manga. Fair call.
Yep.
So then he worked on a bunch of shows and then mangas, and then finally got his own start with Kingdom, right? Because he was a big history buff, loved Chinese history, and it's loose. When I say loose, very loosely based on the Warring Kingdom period of China. But then he put it out there, and it was not going great. In fact, it nearly got axed a few times, and then it was so close to being axed that he went to Inoue and was like, man, tell me what I'm doing wrong. I think this is good, right? And Inoue said to him, the story is interesting. It's just that Shin's eyes, which is the lead character, Shin's eyes are too small.
Really?
And he was like, okay.
They're too small.
He increased the pupil size by one, I don't know what the measurement of pupil sizes are, but he increased the size of the pupil on Inoue's advice, and the show started going off.
I think his eyes are too fucking big.
Well, now they're too big, but they were too small. But it's working.
He needs to dial these eyes back. This is why I'm not rich.
It worked. It worked a treat. Because in 2013, it won the Manga Grand Prize Award at the 17th Osama Tezuka Cultural Prize. And as of September 2023, the manga has over 100 million copies in circulation, making it one of the biggest selling mangas of all time.
It's a great manga, but his eyes are far too big.
Well, they were too small, Graham, and now it's all happening.
Damn it.
So it was obviously adapted into an anime in 2012 by Studio Perio, who, of course, great teacher Onizuka, Naruto, Bleach, Black Clover, the Shonen guys, basically. Legendary studio. But the way I kind of see season one was kind of they got this great IP. They got Kingdom. And the boss, or sort of if you put this into context of your parent being all right, I'm going away for the weekend. Here's $50. Buy some groceries. And you're like, sure. And just go and buy jelly beans and shit. And just eating absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
And then your parents get up what the hell have you done? That is what I think must have happened in Kingdom season. The CEO's guys, I'm building you a team. You're doing Kingdom. They're great, no worries. And he leaves and they're let's just CGI this shit. Let's just coast this through.
Yeah.
It's all good. And the CEO comes what have
Take
you done?
the week off.
What have you done to this thing?
What year did it come out though?
2012.
See, I think Studio Perio had a lot of criticism for their hand. Maybe they were trying to just do something new, and then I don't know, it didn't work out.
Man, did not. It did not work. But yes, so obviously, fictional adaptation of the Chinese history period known as the Warring States period, which ended in 2021 BC. So the show is about a character called Shin. Now, born into the tumultuous Warring State period, Shin and Shao. Now, interestingly, a lot of the translations are very, very wrong when you watch this because a lot of the Chinese characters can't be translated into kanji.
So try reading it. It's a hell of a trip.
When I was watching it, his friend, he's Shin and Shao, it's written P-I-A-O, but everyone's saying Shaw. And I was like, what? What's happening here? I was anyway. So there's a lot of times you'll read a subtitle of a name and then hear them saying something completely different. It's a bit of a wig out. And I imagine it's even more so when you're reading it, right?
Yeah, because I think because there's no official English translation of it.
That's correct.
So whoever's translating it, it's real a mixed bag of what you're going to get. If it's going to be a literal translation or So plus with all these characters with huge eyes, they can become a bit confusing.
There's so many characters. It's unbelievable how many characters. But Shin and Shao are war orphans working as servants in a poor village in the kingdom of Qin. However, they dream of becoming legendary, world-famous generals and train diligently daily, to the point where they've had over 1,000 spars together and are at exactly 50-50 win rate. So one day, a noble is driving past in his carriage and sees the boys sparring. Impressed, he goes to speak to them, and then is rather impressed by how bolshy they are. Like, we're going to be the greatest generals. It's like, you clowns.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next day he turns up at the servants' quarters and to their servants to the head of a very poor village. And he's like, I'm bringing Shal with me. And Shin is devastated. He's like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm so upset. Shal then is also very upset. But then when he goes to Shin, Shin's like, you're going. You are going.
Oh, yeah.
And Shal's like, I know I'm going. And you're going to be with me soon. Anyway, he goes off. Shin's still dedicated as ever. And also, Shin's like the really shit one. Like, he cooks bad food. Shal's like the one they all love. Like the servant, even though he's a servant, the family love him. Like, he just does everything right. He's just like the golden boy. And Shin's just like a bit shit. But super diligent and aggressive and like sort of a bit of a Bakugo sort of energy about him, super aggro. Anyway, a little bit of time passes. And Shal turns back up, dressed in finery, half dead. And he's bleeding and he hands Shin a map and said, you need to fulfill my mission. Go to the point on this map, which is this town next door, which is like full of ruffians, like a sort of ruffian village full of like bandits and no one goes there. And it's like, go there, go to this hut. Oh, by the way, I'm being chased by this ludicrous assassin. And then the assassin turns up. He's a fucking like ninja scroll character. And Shal was killed. Shin is then ahead of him, running. Anyway, turns out he's there because the reason Shal was taken by the noble is because he is an exact match, looking-wise, for the king. There is a coup being done by the king's brother, and Shin is then tasked with getting the king, who Shal was a body double for. They thought they were killing the king. It was Shal. Then Jin starts his journey trying to protect the king, get him back to his people while a coup's taking place, while he's being chased by armies and
weird assassins. Yep.
And basically he sets off on his journey to become the world's greatest general. And I fucking love this show so much, dude. It's like Suikoden meets Legend of the Galactic Heroes with the war. It's obviously in a completely different context. Meets Ninja Scroll. It's like all the things that Sam likes.
And you hope that season 5 is going really well for the
I
context
hope season 5 is
of this
going well
episode.
because, oh God, season 2's just killing it for me. So by the end of this, I'm going to be like,
God, I hope it's
so
good.
long to go. Oh my God.
I do have a long way to go, but I am loving it. I'll get there.
And also, this is actually irrelevant to this episode, but I'm here
It is
for
not irrelevant. It's season 5's airing right now.
What Sam doesn't know, this is the
Kingdom rocks, dude.
season 5 is the ecchi slavery arc.
No! Anyway, Kingdom season 5 is airing right now. For those of you who want to be fucking psychos like me and squint through 38 episodes of or just read the manga up to chapter 170, then watch season 2. Anyway, Kingdom's rocks. It's airing right now, which makes it relevant. Kingdom, check it out.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about something that I thought was going to be shit that ended up being pretty good. That is the wrong way to use healing magic. And this is an isekai. And is like the most generic of isekais, but is aware of itself. And therefore, I think it's okay. But sometimes I feel like there's a really like a new thing in anime where like the meta self-aware ones are now annoying. It's kind of like it's become passe.
It's like an excuse
Yeah,
to
I'm
just
like,
be derivative.
ugh. But this one, I have to say, I stuck it out. The first episode made me laugh, and then I've laughed a couple of times. So it's funny, and I do enjoy one aspect of it. So this is wrong way to use healing magic. Set the scene. Basically, there is a average kid who is in high school. He's just an average guy. He's fine. He's not like bullied or anything. He's having a fine time. And there are two other kids. There's like the student council president, who's this beautiful girl who's a year above him. And then the guy in his year who is the vice president. And they are like the most revered people in the school. And everyone's like, oh, they're so popular and cool and no one can get near them. Anyway, he's like, great, they're great. Basically, one day it's raining and he gets to go get his umbrella and his umbrella's been stolen by someone. So he's like, oh no, that's unfortunate. And then basically these two turn up and it's like 7:00 at night and they're like, you're going to have to go. We have a spare umbrella. And they're like, just walk with us. And he's like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I'm walking with the two most popular kids in school. Yeah. They're walking and, they're chatting. They're all getting along fine. And it's like actually kind of nice. And I was like, is this a slice of life? Have I read this wrong? Like, it took up half the first episode. And then they keep walking and the two popular kids suddenly hear these like bells, like, ringing bells, like bell towers. And they're like, can you hear that noise? And he's like, no, I can't hear anything. They're like, no, I hear some bells. He's like, no, I can't hear anything. And then he walks in and there's a magic circle that comes up and they're isekai'd into another place.
All three of them.
Yep. And then when they get there, they're like, come to, and it says the king of this world who's like, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, but like we had to summon you, like you heard the bells, right? That means you're a hero. And he's like, oh, I didn't hear the bells. Like, and they're like, oh no, I'm so sorry. So that's the start of this.
Okay, that's funny.
And another funny thing is that the girl, the student council president, is like beautiful, and he's like, she's amazing. Anyway, when they get isekai, she is so beyond ecstatic to get isekai that she's like, oh my God, are we heroes? Like, she's like, wow. Like, and she's like, do I have magic? Like, she's like, it's full, like, she's like fully kind of going like crazy, like yandere over isekai. And he's like, oh, my impression of you was so wrong. Like, oh. But also interesting is that the student council president has probably the most sane reaction I've ever seen to an isekai, where he's like, hang on, I have a family and a life.
Yeah.
And he's like, can I go back? Like, what? And they're like, no, sorry, there's no way to send you back. And he's like, you just ruined my life. Like, and he's actually having like quite a, and he's like, he's like, I know I have. Anyway, basically they're like, fuck it. He's like, well, now I have nothing else to do. I guess they're like, we summoned you because you're heroes. You're going to take down the Demon Lord. Absolutely.
There it is.
Of course. It has to be, right?
Yep.
In a neighboring
Just give
kingdom.
him a name.
I think this guy does have a name, but I just heard Demon.
Stormageddon
Honestly,
or
I just
something.
heard Demon Lord. Now it's just like white noise Demon Lord.
Yep.
The whole idea is that they kind of get this person's like, now we'll see your affinity to magic. And they're like, with the main guy, they're like, we may as well just like check yours in case. The first girl has like lightning magic, and he's like a classic edgelord thing. And she's like, I have lightning magic. Like, it's so good. The other guy has light magic, you know, and they're like, wow, so rare, yada, yada. And then they're just like, he's like, I appreciate them treating me like you guys. They know, they're kind of like, we're so sorry we pulled you from your life and you can never return and you are not a hero. But he touches the magic bulb to see if he has an affinity, and it turns this like beautiful emerald green. And he's like, wow. And they're like, wow, it's beautiful. But then it goes to the lady who's checking her power, and she's like pale and sweating and is like, oh no. And he's like, what? What's wrong? And then she like grabs him and she's like, we have to go see the king right now. And she like drags him. And the king, she's like, the bulb turned green. And he's like, oh no. Like, he's like, oh no, like we have to hide him. We need to hide him. Like, we can't have him here. And this whole thing is like, what do you mean? And then we hear this like, meanwhile, there's like this kind of silhouette of this character like walking, and they're like, before she finds out, and then the door bursts open and there's this character is like in a like medical coat. It's like giant woman who's just like the head of the safety or the rescue team, as they're called. And her name is Rose, and she walks in and she's like, I hear the heroes have been summoned. And they're like, and she's like, what were their affinities? And then they're trying to lie. They're trying to cover up, and they're like, oh yeah, just the two. Like, this one has nothing's wrong with him. Like, don't worry about it. And they're like, oh, of all time, you kind of get the vibe that she can't know about the green magic. And then as she's walking away, he's like, but why did I have green magic? Like, is anyone going to explain that to me? And she like turns around and they're like, oh my God. And then she's like, you've got green magic. And it turns out that's healing magic, right? And Rose, who is my favorite character of this season, is this like hectic. She's head of the safety squad. Everyone's terrified of her. She's the strongest, scariest, but she's the head of like the rescue team. And she's like, you're coming with me. I'm going to train you. And they're like, no, we're trying to protect you from like what is going to be the worst training of your life. She's like brutal. He's not actually a hero. Like, anyway.
Got the dud.
Yeah. So he gets taken, and then like it starts his journey as learning healing magic. And what I love about this is like he gets to the place where he's learning, and there's like the most intense dudes. Like, it reminds me of Full Metal Alchemist, like Olivier and the North.
Armstrong.
Like Armstrong,
Yeah.
all that stuff. It's like full on. So the reason her training is so brutal is because you can instantly heal yourself, right? So it's like you will run until you fall over, and then you can heal yourself and then keep going. So you get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And the reason for doing so is like the wrong way to use healing magic, I guess is the title. And it's like, so you can be so fast and so strong that when heroes are dying on the field, you are on the front lines and you can sprint and like fight enough to get them to heal them. So it's like you have to be like crazy strong to do so.
That's fun.
And like only a couple of people in this planet, in this world, wherever they are, have got an affinity to healing magic. And not all of them pass her training. So like they kind of are just like doctors around, but he is stubborn enough and so annoyed by her that he like passes her training. And so he's now her right-hand man. And like, it's a really, like, I'm up to date with this show, and it's really funny. It took me I enjoy like the idea of a support class and like the logistics around it being that they have to be fast and have to be on the front lines, and it's like super brave, which is, I feel like, how doctors are in war, like, like, and I think that it's cool to kind of see a different like non-nurturing side, but also being nurturing and being strong and powerful. And like, I think it's really cool. So far it could fall into like harem-y tropes, but not really at the moment. Like the relationship between the main character and Rose, his mentor, is very much mentor-like. And I enjoy his character growth as protagonist. I think it's funny. And I think it's kind of good. So this one I would recommend watching. I'm still up to date with it. It made me laugh.
It's got real Rising of S.H.I.E.L.D. hero vibes from the sounds of it.
Less problematic than
Hopefully without all the harem.
that. Way less
bullshit.
problematic than
Yeah.
that. No harem, no slavery, no nothing.
Oh, great.
Yeah, no. We're good.
Rising of S.H.I.E.L.D. hero, but good? Who'd have thought? We actually received an email, and I mentioned this on our food.
From the viewer?
From one of y'all, and we really appreciate that because it was mentioning this show for us to watch. Cool. I mentioned it in the food anime episode, but respect to you for sending it in. We love all of you sending in things. If we miss things or you've got shows you think we should watch, please hit us up, whether it's via email at hello@gatewaytoanime.com, through our Instagram DMs or on YouTube comments, whatever. Hit us up. We love to hear it because, I mean, you were going to watch every show of all season anyway, but like I was never planning to watch anything like this. Also, Delicious in Dungeon, which I talked about extensively in our food anime episode, which just recently came out, which I'm watching right now and loving.
Yeah, it's really good.
And it was a great bit of advice from this viewer. So thank you for that email. Really appreciate it. Really, really cool. Delicious in Dungeon on Netflix. I've talked about it in the food episode. I probably don't need to go into it again, but check out Delicious in Dungeon. It's like a real twist on D&D sort of dungeon diving mechanics, except they decide to survive through the dungeon without any money by eating all the monsters. And it turns into a cooking show and a dungeon diving D&D type show, fantasy show, saving the main character's sister from a dragon. And they meet this dwarf who's just like, by the way, I've spent 10 years in this dungeon doing nothing but studying how to cook and eat monsters. They cook monsters all the time. It's fantastic. So yeah, I just wanted to jump on the back of that email because yes, obviously the wrong way to use Healing Magic and Delicious in Dungeon. Excellent shows.
And if you want to hear more about Delicious in Dungeon, we do talk about it on our food anime podcast episode. It's one of the main ones we feature, so check that out.
Yeah, check it out there. But yeah, great. What else are you watching?
Should we just get this one out the way?
Solo leveling.
Solo leveling?
Yeah.
Let's talk about solo leveling.
So, solo leveling.
They're killing it. A1's killing it.
What do you guys think? We all know what it's about.
I think it's fantastic.
What it's about?
I mean, give it a brief one for those of you who don't know. I mean, if you've been hiding under a rock.
Portals appear. You have to go into this. What do they call when they're awakened?
Yeah.
Hunters. People's power emerges. They get levels, blah, 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 blah. They have to go into the dungeons, kill the sort of head beast or whatever it is to close it after a certain amount of time, or monsters spill out into the world.
If the dungeon breaks, if they don't stop it in a certain amount of time. Yeah.
You follow Sunjin Woo. Is that his name? Sunjin Woo, who is famously like the weakest hunter. I think he's rank E.
He is.
He's
and like the lowest.
constantly getting stabbed
By goblins.
by goblins.
Oh, good.
So
Oh,
amazing. Who goes into a double dungeon situation, which is they've conquered the main dungeon, but then something else appears and then horrific things happen and he gets the ability to level up.
The big thing about solo leveling is that how the world works is that when you awaken as a hunter, what level you awaken at is it.
That's it.
That's it. Either you wake up as an S class, you're the top of the top, or you awaken as an E class. And you can't change that. There are very rare occasions of a second awakening, but the big hack that Sunjin Woo manages to get is that he can actually keep doing it. And it's like a full gamification. It's full like almost isekai vibes, but like I mean, it's isekai vibes of the show, obviously, but it's not an isekai.
It's reverse
Per
isekai.
se. It's reverse isekai meets isekai. It's blending all sorts of barriers there because he literally has screens pop up which give him like XP and he can choose things and he can like grab items and no one else can see those things. And he's basically hacked the whole system because he can actually climb.
Yeah.
But he gets things like he has to do a challenge a day.
Trials and
if
stuff,
he fails it, then he gets punished in a way. And that I love that. That was so great. When he gets sentenced, like, and the challenge is like survive. And it's just like run away from this giant monster.
Giant worm in a desert.
Yeah.
If he doesn't do
Run.
so good.
It's really good. Look, solo leveling, obviously, as we mentioned before in our early episode, it is probably alongside Frieren, like the hit of the season. It's the most anticipated anime of this season. At the moment, a lot of question marks about how will the adaptation be. A lot of people were doubting whether A1 could pull it off. There's only been 4 episodes, I believe, at the time of recording, and it looks really good.
It's really good.
Voice acting's brilliant.
Yep.
Soundtrack's great.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm a big fan. I think they're killing it. I think Solo Leveling is doing everything we wanted it to do and more.
It's the second show this season that features a blue hair protagonist fighting a giant snake monster. And the Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic also did that in the latest episode. So I was like, that's so interesting, 2 in a week. But that's a new thing. But Solo
So
Leveling.
when Armageddon and Deep Impact came out at the same time.
Exactly.
I do think that the first episode I was like, weirdly paced. Didn't think
Yeah, a
it was
little
good.
bit, yeah.
Also,
Should've been a
terrible time to leave us on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. But the end of the second episode really did
Oh,
make me very
Epic.
excited, and I'm keen to keep watching it. I'm interested to see how the rest of it goes though. Like, as someone who has read the source
Yeah.
material,
both of you have, yeah.
I'm kind of like, we'll see. But I, at the moment, I think it's a really good adaptation, and I'm glad that it's getting the hype that I think it could deserve, and it's a good adaptation. So excited to see where this one goes. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of hype, and it's a lot of all those kind of
Pure hype.
like
Like the story really fizzles out
pretty quickly.
pretty
actually.
quickly, and you're just
Right.
like, yeah. But it's the hype pulls it. Like
Yeah.
pushes
At the
it,
moment,
pulls it, whatever.
it's dope.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be dope for ages.
Yeah, okay.
It just will. But the end, we won't go into that. That's a Attack on Titan 4 years ago type of thing. It's going to be fun. Enjoy. Buckle in.
Right on. So, sure, I mentioned briefly last time, which I'm now fully up to date with at the time of this recording, is a show called Metallic Rouge, which is an anime original by Studio Bones. And of course, Studio Bones, massive pedigree for Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, My Hero Academia, Soul Eater, Space Dandy, Mob Psycho 100, Skate the Infinity, arguably the best of them
pinnacle.
all.
Pinnacle of shows.
I'm joking, for Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, obviously. But obviously, no,
skateboards in that.
Who am I kidding?
I was hanging 10 and Full Metal Alchemist.
No, obviously, really, really cool show. Have you both been watching it?
Yeah, I'm only 2 episodes in.
Yeah,
actually.
I watched a few episodes. Yeah, real stylistic.
Yeah, very stylish.
Incredible animation.
Yeah.
Really good animation.
Really
oh
interesting
my God.
world build. The first episode, I have to say, was I went, all right, I don't know if I care about anyone yet, though.
I was confused.
And
in the
I was
first episode.
confused, but I went, it looks great and it's going to be good. I was like, I have high hopes for it, but I don't think the first episode quite nailed it from a narrative perspective.
Agreed.
But I do think this is one that we might have to watch in its entirety to really understand it.
Yeah.
I hope it can stick a landing because by all accounts, it should be like number 1 for me this season.
It's killer.
Do you know what I mean? The way it looks, the design, the fucking like everything about it, sci-fi, cyberpunk, anime original,
Mecha in a way,
mecha, and it looks fantastic, great soundtrack, everything tick, tick, tick. But I just went, I'm not sure I'm sold on the storyline.
Well, the first episode is insanely confusing. And so for those of you who've only watched the first episode and been like, I would say keep push through. At least at this point, at the heart, 3 or 4 episodes in, it looks great. And I'm really enjoying it. The story's starting to make more sense. I'm very worried that it'll do what a lot of anime originals do and just fall apart.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. But for those of you who don't know, in a world where humans and artificial beings called Neens coexist, this is on Mars, between Mars and Earth, but this is on Mars. Rouge serves as an assistant to a popular singer called Sarah Fitzgerald. So Neens need this substance called nectar to survive. It's kind of like they inject themselves with a thing called nectar. Whatever that is, I'm not sure yet.
WD-40.
WD-40. So Rouge is secretly a Neen, and she's investigating whether Sarah is one herself, or more accurately, is Sarah one of the so-called Immortal Nine, who are Neen hostile to the government and able to usurp Asimov's rule, which all Neens are apparently beholden to, which is that, of course, they must never hurt a human. So Rouge and the Immortal Nine have the ability to turn into mecha-type warriors. And it's small mecha. It's not like massive, big, Gurren Lagann vibes, but they can turn to small kind of like human-sized mecha, and they're insanely powerful. So Rouge and her technical support, Naomi Orthman, are basically hunting down the Immortal Nine to prevent them from causing untold damage. So in the opening episode, a whole truckload of nectar is stolen by someone who turns out, it's not a spoiler, it happens very fast, to be one of the Immortal Nine. And basically, the world build is complicated and a little bit like clumsily explained, especially in the first episode. Yeah. But I'm holding out high hopes and I'm watching it and I'm enjoying it a lot. So Metallic Rouge, I'm sticking to it till the end and I'll loop back around at the end. But check it out if you haven't. It looks exquisite.
Another one that is on my list I've kept watching is A Sign of Affection, which I talked about is a anime adaptation of a shoujosei about a deaf woman who is a college student who meets a fellow college student and they have a romance. And, it's just very nice. It's a really nice anime. It pulls at the heartstrings. It's very romantic. It's very beautifully done, and it is definitely ticking my like shoujo romance for this season so far. Main character's really hot, so good job on animation on that. He's got silver hair. He's kind of like Gojo from Wish.com is sort of the vibe, maybe. But hey, he seems really nice.
Hey, if it works.
Exactly. But I think that it's good, and I'm going to keep watching it. So that one has got a tick from me, and it's one that I brought up in the episode where we hyped up. So that's good. Another surprise. Cherry Magic. 30 years of virginity can make you a wizard.
Okay.
Is an anime that
make you think you're a wizard.
Dude, my favorite thing was seeing on Crunchyroll the amount of comments being like, I haven't got magical powers yet. We're like,
Where's my burrito? Where's my burrito?
But this show, I like read it and was just like, oh no, I was like, I better click this and just hope I don't, end up arrested on site. Like, I don't know. But it was a shockingly wholesome show. I did not see it coming.
Oh.
Basically, it's about a 30-year-old businessman who is a virgin, and he develops a wizard power when he is 30 years old and a virgin, which is just that if he touches people, he can hear their thoughts. And so for him, it's like something that he
Was
hates.
that a Mel Gibson movie?
Or what women want.
Oh,
But it's everyone. But this is actually an LGBTQI anime. It's actually,
really?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So basically what happens is that like and this character is, what is interesting, he's unaware of his own sexuality because he's so inexperienced. He's actually like, I don't really know about that stuff. Like I've just never really been confident in that kind of aspect of my life. So he's very nice, and he just like goes to work, and he's like, the thing about this power is like, it doesn't really help me at all because I'm too scared to, like if I was the kind of person that was comfortable touching people, I probably would not
I'd be touching them all the
a
time.
virgin. No, literally, he's like, I probably wouldn't have issues that I do have, which I think is interesting.
Sure. That's interesting.
But he, he's more like, it's just annoying on the train where everyone's like, you can suddenly hear people just like, But he gets to work, and he's like, he sees this really attractive man in his office who's like very, all the girls love, and he always hears the girls' thoughts being like, oh, he's so beautiful. And he's like, God, if only I looked like that or had his life, like my life might be more interesting. Like he's so confident and nice. I'd love to just know what he's thinking just once. And then they're in the elevator, and he is like, let's just see what he's thinking. And he like touches him, and turns out that guy is like, oh my God, he's looking like he's got a huge crush on him, the protagonist, and doesn't know how to go about it. So he's like, oh my God, now I know this. Like, how do I navigate this? Because he's like, I haven't ever considered anything romantically. So it's like interesting. It's not even so being upset at that he's like, it's not even, the character's not even that shocked to have to deal with it's like any romance, regardless if it's straight, queer, any of that. It's like he's navigating. And like what I like about it is that all of the sleaziness from the character he's touching is like thoughts that he's like, no, behave yourself. Like it's so disrespectful. Like he's like really like nice. Like you just think things.
Wholesome.
It's so wholesome. Anyway, really wholesome, and just not at all what I was expecting.
Yep.
Anyways, that's really, and I realized it has a live action adaptation.
They're gonna work on those titles, man.
I kind of loved it. I was like, I'm here for this. But yeah, I love that there
is
is
he asexual, the lead character? Or
I think he's just shy, not like maybe like borderline, but I think it turns into a romance, so no.
Interesting.
But I think he maybe just has a hard time navigating romantic situations and isn't super confident. So he's not asexual, no, because it turns into a romance. But it's like he's just so kind of that's not his ballpark. But
That's
it's
really
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That covers some really interesting social, anthropological ground.
Yeah, shocking. I know. From Cherry Magic. I was like, anyway, finding out it's actually a famous like IP that's been adapted many times. That makes sense.
So before you do your big list, Graham, how is Blue Exorcist going?
Yeah, it's fun. It's good being back in that Blue Exorcist world. I would say if you haven't watched the first 2 seasons in a while, watch them, because I was completely lost.
Yep.
I had to do a bit of emergency reverse. To get
5 seasons of Kingdom.
Yeah. Much easier. But yeah, a lot of fun. I really do love that world. I think Rin is a really interesting character. Just, father is the devil, but he just like his one real desire is just to have some friends and be like a normal kid at school, but he has to kind of hide the fact that he's a demon.
Yep, an exorcist,
This sort of it's called the Illuminati arc, so he's pretty much finding out that the True Cross Academy, which he's at, obviously has like a secret governing body with their own sort of motivations in the world, and some of them are demons. Surprise, surprise. So like the principal who's always in there.
Yeah.
So they've got some nefarious plots that are evil, and he's sort of like figuring out who these people are and stuff. But it's just a great world just to sit in and enjoy, and it's like a warm bath with these characters again.
So you're enjoying it's handling the adaptation well?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It looks amazing because obviously it's 2024 animation, even though the other one was, 2015, I think. But no, it's still a lot of fun. It's just, I just enjoy this world.
Yeah.
And it's, it's ticking a lot of boxes.
Right on.
So, yeah.
Right
enjoyed
on.
it.
Charlie, what have been some of the misses of this season that you have unceremoniously dropped?
Hang on, these are ones I haven't dropped. Sorry, I haven't talked about. I'll just go rapid fire though, because honestly we don't have enough time. But like ones that I'm like, they're good. Mr. Villain's Day Off is cute.
Yay.
It's a fun one. We talked about it in the hype up. It's basically
it is cute.
Demon who likes to,
He's like a Power Rangers villain who has his days off and goes to the zoo.
But like befriends a Power Ranger at the same time and stuff. And it's like very like Way of the House Husband, very cute. It's probably I'm probably not gonna watch the whole thing, to be honest. I don't know if it's gonna last longevity of the whole thing, but it's cute.
The manga's just like really cute and easily to just enjoy. Just read the manga.
Fluffy Paradise, Sam, you might like this one. Basically, it's a protagonist who is a reincarnation. She is like 29 and she's tired and she just dies from overwork. Literally, the whole thing is that she just walked into a room and just dies. And then she's like, I'm dead. And they're like, she died from overwork. They don't explain how.
You don't have to. It happens.
But like, so this is this is the weirdest thing though. So like she then gets sent to, she's dead and she meets like a god who's like, hi, like you can have any power that you want bestowed upon you in your next life if you do me one favor. And without thinking, she's just like, I want to pat fluffy things. She's like, I just want to like pat my parents' cat. I never got a chance to. I was always so busy. Like, I just want animals and I want to pat them. And God's like, okay, great. Yeah, no worries.
Ever conceived.
But
Kingdom.
But he's like,
Get out of here, Kingdom.
But the thing about this episode, I had to like rewatch a couple of times. But did I get this plot wrong? The God is like, I have dropped this show, but the God was like, so basically, I need you to keep an eye on your next life, which is a new world. Your next life, just like let me know how bad the humans really are, so I can wipe them all out. But it's like, what? Anyway, so basically, she then gets reincarnated as a baby in this like noble, rich place in some fantasy land. And her power is that all animals are drawn to her and love her. So she like befriends all of them. She has a pet tiger. Like they're all like, they love, like most of this plot line, the character is obviously like 29 in her head, but hasn't reincarnated. Honestly, they just went copy and paste Spy Family. They're like little pink-haired girl with a giant fluffy dog that she rides around. Like it's literally just like copy paste. Like they're just like, well, what works? Like cute girl with a giant dog and it's very wholesome. But I was like, this is very wholesome anime, but like, is she truly going to be like, all right, now kill all the humans? I was like, what is this wild like genocide storyline happening in the back of Fluffy Paradise? Do I think they can handle such nuance? Maybe, but I'm not going to stick around. No, definitely not. Absolutely not.
That's giving it too much credit.
I'd be like, but honestly, maybe I'm wrong and I've actually just misinterpreted
Maybe
the entire
you've missed
thing.
the greatest piece of media
Potentially.
ever made.
But I went, look, I can see why people like this show. It's very cute. I just went, all right, the shtick's done for me after 2 episodes and I dropped it.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Yeah.
The shtick didn't last.
Didn't last. Another one that was interesting that I got to release in The Royal Lady with the Lamp, which is an isekai within an isekaiception. We talked about this last time. It's like she was a villainess and then she died and became a doctor in the real world and then she died again and went back to her original villainess self with her medical knowledge. And now she's like focusing on saving lives in her original life. A couple of first episodes not so well paced, but it's actually really good source material. Like I've read the memoir. It's a memoir adaptation. Same with Solo Leveling. So I recommend that. Like I think it could be worth looking at.
You're still watching Apothecary Diaries, obviously.
Absolutely. Sengoku Yoku. This is a shonen. That is it looks like a classic, beautiful animated shonen. I haven't actually watched past the first episode, but I will, and I'm excited to watch it all because it was interesting. Well, it kind of reminded me a little bit, and this is going to be, people are going to get so mad at me because I know that it's based off quite a famous manga, but it reminded me a little bit of Demon Slayer in some ways. Yeah. And the way that the magic system kind of worked and like that kind of traditional setting, maybe a little bit. So it was good. All right, now to the shit. Now to the absolute trash.
Here's the trash.
Honestly, I've only got one to talk about, and I'm just going to say.
Chain Soldier?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had to watch Chain Soldier. I had to do it. I had to.
I couldn't do it. I read
If
the
I ever get
description, I was like,
arrested for it, I had to do it for you guys, all right? Okay. I'll read you the synopsis. You guys need to know. We didn't cover this in our last one because we didn't think any of us would be dumb enough to actually watch it, but here I am.
Yeah, fuck.
After his high school graduation, Yuki Wakara realized it's been 5 years since his sister's disappearance during a Mato disaster. Throughout Japan, mysterious entrances have opened to a dimension called Mato. So really, this is like Solo Leveling.
Yeah.
Anyway, a demonic metropolis filled with disastrous monsters known as Shuki that threatened the safety of humans. However, a new hope arose as the discovery of Mato fruit that grants supernatural abilities exclusively to women allowed them to fight against the Shuki. Due to this, a new matriarchal government was formed, establishing a female organization called the Anti-Demon Corps, which caused men to fall to the bottom of society. Look, honestly, I'm on board right
up
now.
to this point.
Yeah, up to this point, it's fine.
Yes, it's just the presentation of it is an issue. When Yuki suddenly finds himself in Mato, he is unable to escape on his own. But just as he anticipates a gruesome end by the Shuki, a girl in military outfit appears and protects him. As the chief of the 7th unit of the Anti-Demon Corps, Kyoko Uzun is an ambitious yet devalued by her own peers due to her power being deemed unusual. Now in a life or death situation, Kyoko takes the opportunity to find out the true potential of her superpower by using Yuki. In order to defeat the Shuki, he has to become her slave. So
there it is.
basically, the idea is that she can
Is this the one with the chains and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've seen some movies. Okay, I know what you mean.
She can use her power to chain and then use them as a slave. So she often uses the Shuki themselves to ride around, that kind of thing. It's like not, they're like such a useless power. I'm like, not really. Like she can ride a giant monster around. Like, it's good. But for some reason, when she uses him, he becomes all powerful and blah, blah. Look, the actual premise, I'm like, could have been good. It's the same mangaka source material. It did Akame ga Kill,
Yep.
which is maybe my least favorite show ever. I've ranted about in this podcast several times. Really don't like it. It's edgy, not great. Edgy kind of stuff is not my vibe. Chain Soldier is that, there's a payoff. Like she obviously, I'm like, I could have gone on board with this. Like, it's fine, the dom sub stuff, like S&M, like cool if it's done well. But the payoff of this is that like, after she's used him, the power is that then she has to reward him with something against her body will.
Oh.
That's the same equivalent of what he's performed. So in the first episode, it's like a make-out session, but she's like trying to resist it, but her body is forcing her to do it.
What the
And
fuck?
apparently, as it goes along, which I'm not surprised about, it's the rewards get more and more gratuitous with different women. It turns out that he can be the slave to all of the women in this military corp thing. And it gets more and more gratuitous as it goes along. So I was like, we could have like, honestly, when I was telling, I was like, maybe this is interesting.
Yeah, up until that point, you were like, oh, that
Up
sounds
until
like
it
a cool...
got horrific.
Yeah. But then when you see the character design and you go, you know what you're in for, basically.
Yeah.
I watched this show and also what annoyed me about it was it's like terribly animated, just badly paced and felt very dated. Even for something that's like edgy, I was just like, this feels so dated.
Oh, okay.
So no, don't watch that one.
Yep, way ahead of you.
Yeah, that was my main yikes. There's a couple of other ones I just went, this is kind of boring. There's like the Unwanted Undead Hero, which is a bit boring. Stuff that I was kind of watching that just felt a bit run of the mill. I won't get into it. Honestly, watch the video because obviously we're here for hours.
Well, that is our 2024 winter season check-in. A little bit less shit than we gave it credit for. I'll tell you what, in our hype up, there's actually a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Actually a lot of good stuff. A lot of garbage, but a lot of good stuff. There hasn't, like, Frieren still going, obviously. Apothecary Diaries still going. Some of the big hitters from last season. But Solo Leveling is the big hitter of, like, the new thing, as far as, like, sort of taking that space in Jujutsu Kaisen's been filling up until recently, It's probably not quite at the same level as Jujutsu Kaisen in regards to, like, hype. But that being said, one of the biggest, if not the biggest ever debut on Crunchyroll.
Oh,
Solo Leveling episode 1. Yeah. Huge.
Interesting.
Huge. So that's, that and Frieren, two big hitters. A lot of really interesting stuff in there. Again,
I think Seventh Loop is the best show of the season. I think it's better than Solo Leveling. Like, actually.
Well,
I think it's fucking awesome.
There you go. Metallic Rouge has potential to get even better. There's a lot of really good stuff out there. I'm looking forward to finally reaching the season that's airing of Kingdom this season.
4 years.
But Kingdom is dope. Anyway.
And Chain Soldier.
Chain Soldier.
Let us never speak of it again. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for our Winter 2024 check-in. If you like what we're doing, you can find us on our social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, which hopefully you're watching us on. Otherwise, if you're a podcast listener, please go and leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Makes a massive difference. If you really like what we're doing, you can find us on Patreon, where you will get a fresh episode every Friday, exclusive only to Patreon, as well as behind the scenes footage and early releases of these podcast episodes. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Charlie, Graham, thank you. We'll be back later on with our final thoughts of winter 2024 when that happens. Until then, stay tuned for more podcast episodes. Catch you next time.